Old Town square stern model, 1935. They made this model up through the 50s. Came with or without sponsons. Sponsons were a little more expensive. And on the back is a Champion 8.5 horsepower around 1956. It's a hydro drive, really complicated lower unit. It's actually a hydraulic pump, and the fluid in the lower unit lube, is circulated to drive the propeller at a very, very low speed. And as you can see, there's a lever on the side, which in this position here, right here, is the slowest, and this position up here is the fastest, but it's still a very, very slow drive. So you can have the engine idling at about 1500 and the propeller is barely turning, the boat's barely moving. When it is put into the next position here, that engages a clutch dog, which is very similar to what all the outboards have today. So it goes in from the hydro drive to a hard clutch-driven gear, pinion gear, drive gear situation where the prop is turning directly from the gear drive. But prior to that, it's driving the propeller by hydraulics through a motor. It's very unusual, quite difficult to understand and to work on. It has to be very, very precision. It took a lot of new parts because typically the lower unit lube is gone in these things, and once that's happened, then the surfaces no longer contact well, and the hydraulic pump doesn't work. The engine starts fairly well. You can put it in almost in neutral by putting that hydro drive all the way to the rear, and this is the choke. You flip it down and crank her over in the start position. It's got a lot of limiters inside of it, so you can't over rev it with the in hydro drive. It can only go about half speed in hydro drive. The engine itself is complicated. It's got reed induction as well as crankcase induction, like the old Johnsons from the late 20s, early 30s. And then it's got reeds like a modern two-cycle, two-port engine. So it is complex, and the bearing system inside is needle bearings, double row, 64 needle bearings per piston, connecting rod, crankshaft connecting rod end. And that's a lot. That's a lot of little bearings. It runs fairly well. The engine was started and ran for me. I've probably run it for 15 years, and she went extremely well. Champion hydro drive in very low hydraulic run. Barely moving. Barely moving. Give it a little bit more speed. Moving a little faster, still moving hydraulically on that prop. Just barely moving. Two ways to run it. Barely tucking along.